Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I am Tara Tarango, and I want to welcome you to this afternoon webinar about summer school. Although it's hard to imagine we're already starting to think about that, but I appreciate you guys joining me. Hopefully you get some tips and tools here to accelerate learning in your summer school program. So I do want to let you know, sometimes I get asked about any handout or links to resources. So this QR code, if you're a scanner and want to look at it on your phone, or there's also a bit.ly here, and we'll put that in the chat. You can always access the handout there as well. So we'll get started, and I'll get you out of here by 4:30 because I know time is super precious. So as I mentioned, all the links that I talked about here are, you can access them through that handout. So if you don't want to take notes like a mad person, just feel free to access that. And Robin will be putting that in the chat box for us. And speaking of Robin, she's here. You want to say hi, Robin?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
So Robin's on the back end. If you have any questions or things that you write in the chat box, she's the one that will see that. So she can help you with any tech issues that you might be having or any questions you might have that you want her to send my way. There's a follow-up or any way you want to handle that, you can reach out to her through the different tools in the webinar. And the other question I get a lot is this being recorded? So yes, this will be recorded. In fact, if you are joining us here live, welcome. And if you're joining us via the video, welcome as well. I hope that this is a good use of your time. Because as I said, time is super precious right now. And I love the lime guy here who's about to drop all his limes. And I feel a little bit like administrators right now feel something like this when you think about all the different limes that we're trying to hold in our hands right now. So of course, all the practical issues that have come about from the pandemic, right? All the shortages, having to do the contact tracing and the quarantines and the masking or not masking and all of that stuff. And then you have on top of that, the sort of, kind of academic piece the pandemic has also caused, learning loss, if you want to use that term, or the social emotional learning and well-being of our students and our staff, equity issues, parental opinions, right? All the spring testing that's coming upon us. And then there's all the normal just sort of spring stuff, right? You got graduation, you're starting to look at school improvement planning, all the different spirit activities and prom and all that sort of thing maybe you might be dealing with. Of course, teacher burnout, mental health has been a huge topic all year, and that's only going to get worse as we get toward the end of the year, looking for that work-life balance. So my point is all these things are on my mind, and yet, oh yeah, summer school, we're supposed to think about that. So I commend you for spending a little time to think about summer school, particularly this year, where I think it has a lot more relevance, a lot more meat associated with it, maybe than ever before. And what I mean by that is, if you think about it, I really think a lot of administrators, we've been talking to a lot of administrators who are really looking at summer school as the place to accelerate learning for all the sort of instructional gaps that we've had to encounter. So thinking vintage summer school vibes, right? Anybody remember, I'm dating myself here, but the old summer school movie with Mark Harmon, used to be a place where, maybe some high school kids who need a few more credits to graduate, or, a couple kids fell a little behind and they're going to use summer school to, catch up, or maybe to prevent sort of that summer slump a little bit, but, never the kind of huge stakes that I feel like a lot of schools are putting and, communities are putting their expectation on summer school now, right? So the 2022 summer school vibes are more about how do we address this real instructional gap that we have and this loss of proficiency in reading and math. Although we've gained a lot of other skills, everybody across the board, there are certainly some areas where we've not been able to have the kind of continuous and rigorous instruction that we want to have. And so looking at summer school to do that, it means summer school is more important than ever. But there's just one big problem with that. And that is our teachers are absolutely fried, right? They are just spent. So how can we ask them to now come back and teach summer school with stakes that are higher than ever and create these accelerated learning opportunities? It's really, really a big, big problem. So I want to share with you first some ideas on recruiting summer school teachers to kind of help you with your summer school plan, but then some ideas on how to really solve this problem from a big picture way. So first, some tips for recruiting. These are just some, and looking and researching and talking to some administrators, some creative ideas I heard out there. This was maybe not so creative, but if you are sitting on some ESSER money, you can use that to pay these teachers for summer school. Money doesn't do everything, but I'm seeing that a lot of schools are increasing between 20% to 100%. There's some of them are doubling teacher salaries. I'm looking at anything between $35 to $60 an hour. I'm seeing as some going rates out there for teachers for teaching summer school. So if you have those funds available to increase the pay per teacher, that might help you get some folks interested in it. Another idea I thought was kind of creative was to really look at any incoming new teachers. So teachers who have just graduated from college and they're going to be coming into your school in the fall. If you could bring them in the summer, it's kind of a win-win. Gives you someone who's fresh to teach summer school, and it also gives them a little experience before they start in with the kind of normal school year. So that could be an idea to consider. Another one, again, if you have the funds to maybe spread this out a little bit, requires more teachers, but if you cap the class sizes at 10 students, that will help the teachers see this as something that's really doable, where they really get to teach in a meaningful way to a handful of students and not have to deal with sort of the large class sizes. That might help make this more appealing. And then kind of related to that, maybe allow your teachers to do some passion projects. So if there's something they've always wanted to teach, but maybe there wasn't room for it in the main, regular school year, summer school might be a time to let them kind of pursue that passion and find ways to integrate the different content areas they need to accelerate into that. And I'll show you some examples of some of those passion projects a little bit later, but that might be another way to, again, make this a little bit more appealing for teachers. But big picture, how we solve this problem, I'm excited about looking at summer this way. Maybe it's a chance for us to really reinvent teaching and learning this summer. And so kind of I'm laying out a plan for you here that might help you to do just this. And to do this without frying your teachers. That's the goal here. That's the solution we want to talk about. So this is kind of the process we'll go through. One is establish your summer school guiding principles. So a vision for what it is you want your summer school to accomplish. I'll share you some possibilities for that. Then you're going to identify those learning gaps and goals. What's the actual content that you need to accelerate, that you need to hit straight on, those standards you need to hit? You're going to identify those. And then what I really want us to think about is exploring and selecting some authentic learning experiences. Find things that you know are going to engage both your teachers and your students in meaningful ways. And then you align those learning goals to those authentic experiences. And then finally, you're going to support your staff with the training and resources to deliver on those goals. So I'll take you through each of the steps in this process to sort of reinvent teaching and learning this summer, but particularly focusing on those last three, because those tend to be a little bit harder to accomplish. So I'll give you some more tools and resources for those in particular. All right, so we'll start in with those guiding principles. And one thing that I think is unique to this year is that we really want to have some guiding principles that are both academic and addressing the social emotional wellness of our students and teachers. So I'll throw out a few here that I think are particularly kind of apropos to Summer School 2022. But the point is, you come up with your own. What are your guiding principles for summer school that everyone can really rally behind and have a picture of what it is you're trying to accomplish? But it's always good to have a starting place. So I'll share with you what our guiding principles are for summer school this year. So academically, feel like students need to experience more challenging and more engaging school experiences. If we're going to accelerate learning, we can't give them the same content we've always given them and expect them to just do it faster. We need to have more challenging, more engaging experiences that are going to really allow us to have a more relevant context that we can then accelerate learning within. Also on the academic front, I think this is important every year, and that is all students need to be receiving grade level content. So we need to have those appropriate scaffolds, but we don't want to look at this as just remediation, right? If we're continuing to kind of set those expectations low, that's where they're going to meet us. But we got to continue to set that expectation high to give them access to grade level content and give them the supports they need to get there. But let's not spend too much time remediating where they just get further and further behind and never actually get to core content. And then I also want us to make sure that we're looking at summer school not as the be-all, end-all, that we're going to accelerate all learning within these, 8 weeks, let's say, but rather to look at it as a springboard. So the instruction that we offer in our summer school is going to address those learning gaps that we've identified, but it's also going to serve as a springboard for the next year and beyond. So looking at ways that we can sort of address some foundational learning here that will help us continue to accelerate next year, because we're not going to be able to do it all in the summer. Let's not put that all on ourselves. On the social emotional learning side, I think it's important that students engage with the broader community and demonstrate this sort of sense of belonging that I think has been lacking over the last few years, certainly as we've not had a really good, strong, consistent cohort of kids in school. whether that's because we've had to go remote and hybrid, or whether that's because so many kids are out having to quarantine, and one day to the next, you never have that consistent group of kids. So really kind of bringing back that sense of belonging. And if we could even do that within the broader community, I think that's even more important to really making the kids feel like they're engaged in something that's meaningful and relevant. Also making sure all students have equitable access to this rich programming that we're going to be offering, right? So the idea of equity and making sure that we're doing everything we can so that these experiences are available to all. And then I think at the end of the day, we really want our students to develop those identities as competent, successful learners. We want them to feel successful in school, successful in learning through our summer school program. So like I said, you want to come up with your own, but these are 6, 3 academic, 3 social, emotional, that I kind of culled together and pulled together that may be helpful for you in framing what it is you want as a vision for your summer school. So that second step was learning gaps, identifying those learning gaps and goals. So you probably already have a few kind of, a start on this or ways you want to do this, but just to kind of put those back in front of you and maybe give you a few tools. You want to collect clear and actionable data. So maybe you want to survey your teachers and just ask them, what areas do you feel like there was any instructional loss or learning loss? And we have a couple of different surveys, one at K-5 and one at 6-12 in that handout document that you can give to your teachers to find this out. Obviously, you can use your state tests, any diagnostic assessment that you might be using. So pull all that data together. I would say take that a little bit with a grain of salt. You know your students, your teachers know your students. I would take that as your best kind of evidence for where the students might be lacking, where the teachers didn't have enough time to cover things. But sort of look at that to get your list of standards and skills that you feel like we may need to accelerate during the summer. Another one to think about is looking at standards and focusing on those power standards, right? Not all standards are created equal. Some of them are real building blocks for future learning. Some of them have more cross-curricular kind of applicability. And so finding a way to identify and raise to the top those standards that are most important and most critical will help you select which things you want to accelerate learning in the summer. And so I have another tool here for you, and it is the standards scoring sheet. So I'll tell you just a little how this works. Again, there's a link to it. It's just an Excel document. And if you are like me, a little Excel nerd, you're going to geek out on it, which is probably 2 of you on this call. But those of you who aren't, don't be afraid as well. It's basically a spreadsheet. And we've taken the standards for each grades K through 8, listed them here by content area in each tab. And then we kind of came up with a few different categories, but you could change out these categories. As I mentioned, we said building block. How much is this future learning build off of this standard? If it's a really strong building block, a lot of future learning is dependent upon it, I'm going to give that a 5. If it's not a big building block, it's going to be a 1. Similarly, multidisciplinary. How applicable is it to multiple content areas? And also the third one we did was level of thinking. Is it just a basic recall? That's maybe a 1. Or is it, more application or even more creation? Kind of thinking about Bloom's taxonomy, that would be more of a 5. So we've taken the liberty to put these standards in here and score them. And then what happens is then on the master tab, it will bring to the top those standards that scored the highest. So just a way for you to see which standards rise to the top as being power standards. But you can feel free to rescore these yourself or to change out those categories. Maybe you want to put in learning loss level, right? Maybe your teachers can say which ones of those they feel like are ones that were most impacted by instructional time that was interrupted. So just a tool there that might be helpful in helping you identify your power standards so that, again, you know what those gaps are. All right, so those 3 ones at the end, those big ones. If there's one thing I want you to take away in terms of reinventing teaching and learning this summer, it's instead of thinking, I need to teach X, how can I make it interesting for summer? Go flip that script. Say, how can I do something that's meaningful and interesting this summer that I know my kids are going to love? And then how can I connect X content to it? And I'll show you how that can work. So I want you to start by thinking about some authentic learning experiences. And what I usually, when I'm working with teachers, I ask them to just sort of brainstorm, what are those characteristics of an authentic learning experience? What does that mean? Well, let's create our own vision for that. And I'll share with you some of the ones that come up most often. So some piece of sustained inquiry. The kids are working on something over a period of time. It's not 1 hour, one class period. There's an authentic audience. The kids are working towards sharing what they've learned with someone who either cares about that topic, knows about that topic, is impacted by that topic, someone who it really matters to. That ups their engagement tremendously. Some amount of iterative thinking, right? The chance for them to try something, get some feedback, and make it better. I think that's really critical to an authentic learning experience. That's how we really do learn, right? Is by getting some feedback and trying it again, improving upon it. Some level of student choice, I think, is an important piece of authentic learning characteristic. Student engagement is often one we hear. I do think cross-curricular is really important too. If we think about just if I'm cooking dinner tonight, right? I'm using all the content areas right there, right? We don't do these in isolation. So thinking about, how we can incorporate different content areas will help make it more authentic. Real world application, similar to authentic audience, but are the students doing something that is going to impact their community, their world that they live outside of school? And collaboration. We also want to make sure our students have the opportunity to collaborate with one another. Sorry, ignore Cooper the dog. What I mean by this is let's have them collaborate in really meaningful ways to create meaning together. So it's not just like I'll hold the string and you cut it. It's let me use what I have learned, combine it with what you have learned, and we actually can make a bigger, more meaningful piece of content and learning together. So hopefully that gives you a sense of what those authentic learning characteristics are. And again, I think it's important to have teachers create their own list of what those look like, or you have your own list of what you think that should be, so we're all working toward the same goal. So I want to show you what that looks like. I'm going to show you a 2-minute video here of one of the authentic learning experiences, what it looks like in the classroom. All right, I'll let you look at that.
In Take a Stand, my kids were able to pick a topic, learn how to debate respectfully with each other, and then they were able to build a podcast and share that issue with other parents and people around the world.
You have to get along with people that disagree with you to see if they have a better point. If you're debating, you do it politely. When you're debating, you don't fight like be kind.
My kids were able to collaborate and share ideas throughout this whole project.
Sometimes she would be like, no, this is better, and I'd be like, why do you think that? And then you kind of have like a mini debate. We have to listen to ours. We think we should spray for triple E because 4 people have died and 10 people have been confirmed in Michigan to have the disease.
Past couple weeks, we've been super pumped about science and I've been really excited to continue our project.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun just making a podcast and debating it, doing the research, just having fun.
My kids were really engaged because they knew they were going to share their podcast with their parents, the community, and the world.
So we're open for the project for children and researching.
All right, hopefully that gave you a sense of what that can look like in a classroom setting. I think it's really helpful to see that. And think about those characteristics we just talked about and how many of those did you see in that video. So when I'm preparing teachers to teach authentic learning experiences like this, whether it's in a regular school year or in a summer school setting, I really like to go through the differences between a project and a project-based learning unit, because I think a lot of times what I hear from teachers after this is, oh, I thought I was doing PBL, but I was really just doing a project. So I'm not going to take you through all these right here because I want to make sure I get you out at 4:30, but I do want to alert you to this. It's in your in that handout document. It's basically 6 different scenarios, and I have the teachers sort of sort them into whether they think it's a project or project-based learning unit, right? For example, creating chef hats versus learning about nutrition and creating healthy recipes and holding a family feast day. So we'll go through these on your own time. You can take those and do them with your students, but with your teachers rather. But I think it can be very eye-opening to what a project-based learning unit really is. So it's one thing to do something that's engaging, but like I said, I promised I would tell you, you can align content goals to that. So I want to show you that. I'm going to tell you about one other project. This is one called Moments to Remember, where the students work with a senior citizen to learn about their lives, and they create a biography of their lives. So I'm not going to play this video for you because I want to make sure I have plenty of time and get you out of here on time, but there's a video of this project as well. But essentially it's that, right? They meet with the teachers, but I want to, with the senior citizens, make some friends, create a biography. But I just want to show you that basic concept. Think of all the different content that you could connect to that. So for example, we have for English language arts, we have them think about what was the theme of that person's life, right? Was it overcoming obstacles or love of family? So think about that as a great way to teach theme. Obviously social studies, life in different eras comes really nicely with that. But math, you could use their sort of timeline of their life and use that as any kind of timeline work, right? So number sense or equivalent fractions. And I'm using 4th grade here just as an example of standards, but you can pick something kind of in the middle. But obviously think about having your teachers think about what standards they need to teach and connecting it. Just to show you how you can get creative, thinking about science. We were kind of stuck on this one for a while. How can we teach science with a project like this? And then we realized we could pair the students with a senior citizen who was born in the same month. So they're both born in January, although 60 years apart maybe, the night sky looked the same when each of them were born. So they could talk about patterns of the night sky that way. So again, just a way to think about how do you connect what you need to teach to something that's meaningful and authentic. And we also like to treat social and emotional learning as a content area. So looking at those CASEL standards, if you're familiar with those, we take each of those 5 skills that they have and kind of treat them, put in little mini lessons associated with that. Obviously with this one, you could see if you're going to be having the kids meet with senior citizens, some, relationship skills, social awareness are going to be so important. So we have time to build those skills in as part of this project. So just to prove my point, if that wasn't enough for you, look at all the other math standards you can do, right? We talked about number sense and equivalent fractions, but powers of 10 as you look to, look at the differences in age as we go up, and maybe that's something you could do. Whole number division. We talked about theme in English language arts, but just look at all the other English language arts skills that you could work with. We had so much trouble coming up with that one science, but we came up with more. Let's say we bring them a plant, right, as a gift. Then you could talk about what the needs of plants and animals, right? You can just get creative. Social studies, more different things you can do here. So my point is, here's a ton of content. So if you're looking to accelerate learning, what better way than to have an authentic learning experience that you then tie a bunch of different standards to, but they're all connected by this meaningful experience, giving them context so that you don't have to spend so much time reteaching and starting and stopping. So hopefully that gives you a sense of that second to last step there of how to align content to those experiences. And then finally, the last step is to train your teachers, get them ready for this, because as we talked about, they are spent. So we can't take a lot of their time. We can't ask them this spring to come up with full-fledged project-based learning units. So what we have been working with some schools on is how can we really help them with this? So with just a few collaborative planning sessions in the spring, just a little bit of time, we can select projects that are going to work for a school, identify how we're going to connect those learning gaps that they have to those projects, and then save the teachers time by customizing those projects for them to whatever their needs are, and helping train them so that they can just kind of show up and deliver and not have to come up with these projects from scratch. So I want to throw that out as a way to think about how we best use teachers' time this spring. So for example, that might mean kind of between now and April, a couple 2 to 3 hours of just sort of talking with teachers to find out what those needs are, selecting some projects that might be appropriate for them. And then maybe, as we get closer to summer, spending maybe 1 day or 2 days really helping prepare them so that they're ready to go, giving them everything they need to do to implement those projects with their students. And then wanted to show you there are these 10 projects that are built out for them. So that's going to save them a ton of time because all of those real world connections are in there. Those lesson plans are in there. Those opportunities to collaborate are in there. So that's what really takes the most time in project-based learning. It's not the teaching, it's the planning. And so this way the teachers can do what they do best, which is teach. So I just kind of wanted to share with you a little bit what teachers have said about these projects, particularly in the light of summer school. So we want things that are easy to follow, that they can easily make their own or just follow it as it is. Things that kind of involve students in something that's bigger than themselves. That's something we really like about these, developing those empathy skills as well as the academic benefits. Teachers are also really liking the chance to collaborate, that deeper learning, the fact that they don't have to plan a lot, like I said, and they don't have to recreate anything. That's what we're really trying to go for. So we don't break our teachers, but we actually maybe can use the summer to reinvigorate their own love for teaching. So just to kind of show you a little bit about how that could look in a sample 8-week plan we have on our website, but I've just snipped a couple of 4 weeks here. Maybe every 2 weeks you're doing a project. So for example, here is State of Sustainability, where the students are going to author a class book about how their state is faring in relation to those sustainability goals, and they can publish that book. Some classrooms have shared their book with the state, the governor of the state. So all sorts of interesting things have happened with that. But just look at all the content that you could align to that. And that's what we love to help our teachers do, is to say, what is the content you need to teach? You know what gaps you have. We know authentic learning experiences. Let us work together, and then we'll help you align those so that you can pull this off this summer, like I said, without burning anybody out. And then the last piece of that is we love to be there to help them. So we've had a lot of times just requests come from teachers, whether it's, I love the way this happened in this project. Could you do this for me in another project? All right, you bet. Here we go. We got it for you. Or, my students did this. Could you create a chart of it so they can see it come to life? Or so another one we get a lot of times is, I'm working on this project where the kids need to learn about something. Do you know an expert that could come into my classroom? Yep, we can help you with that. So again, those things that hopefully will save our teachers time. So I want to thank you again. I said I'd get you out on time, so I'll make sure I do that. But I want to thank you for thinking about summer school and for considering maybe doing this approach, creating these authentic learning experiences. And if you're interested in doing that, we would love to work with you. You can get a 20% off discount for any of these, whether it's that summer school PD consult and consultation piece of it, customization, those Blue Apple projects, or that ongoing support. You can feel free to email me there, or we'll do a survey at the end and you can fill out something there if you're interested as well. And as a thank you, we want to offer something we've been doing a lot lately, and it's super fun because we love making teachers happy, and nothing makes them more happy than food. So we're doing these lunch and learn giveaways. And a lunch and learn is simply up to 20 teachers at one of your schools. We will order in lunch for them, and then we'll come on and give some really kind of quick hitting tips they can use in their classroom. Something that is, not too heavy, both the food or the content, but gives them a little taste of something that hopefully will help them in their classroom, but also show them that we appreciate them. So we are happy to give away 3 of these lunch and learns. So I would love your feedback on whether this is helpful for you in terms of thinking about summer school. So if you would, as soon as this closes out, a survey will pop up. You can answer, it's like a 30-second survey. Answer a few questions about the survey, but also if you'd like to be entered into the drawing to win the lunch and learn, feel free to add that in there. Just check yes for that, or if you'd like for more information about our summer school plan. So thank you so much for all you're doing, all those lines that you're keeping in your hands. I wish you the best. It's really, really a tough school year. I'm so sick of hearing unprecedented, but it is unprecedented. But I really am excited about summer. Maybe things are lifting a little bit. Maybe we have a chance to really reinvent teaching and learning with some authentic learning experiences. And we'd love to help you along the way. So thank you very much, and look forward to hearing your feedback on the survey and working with you soon. Thanks so much.